The year is 2025. Your computer and your brain has zero programming languages installed. No Python, no Node, no Java. And you are coding faster than ever before. Sounds impossible? The future is already here with Replit. In this video, I'll show you why cloud development might be your next big move, especially if you are a beginner tired of environment setup difficulties, developer who wants to code from any device, or someone who just wants to focus on building, not configuring, or just want to learn prompt grammar and build projects using AI. I'll share my experience working with Replit, both inspiring moments and frustrating ones. By the end of this video, you're gonna know if this approach, AI cloud coding, is suitable for you or not. And before we jump into the good stuff, smash the subscribe and like button to support the project. And drop your comment below about your biggest AI development headache. What is Replit? Replit is a powerful browser-based integrated development environment (IDE) that stands out for its unique code-first collaborative approach. Unlike traditional IDEs like VS Code or its forks, let's say Cursor or Windsurf, Replit operates entirely in the cloud, meaning you can start coding instantly without any local setup. You can think of Replit as Google Docs for coding. It's where development, deployment, and collaboration all happens in one seamless environment. Here you can see what differs Replit from local IDEs. Let's start with very few words about the UI. When you open the app, you can see the home page. You can see all your REPLs if you've already created any in this page. You can create a new REPL clicking this button, or you can go straight to Assistant and ask Assistant to create the project, just explain it in your own words, and it's gonna start the project. On this page, you can see all your deployments. In the usage page, you definitely can check out how much money have you already spent and on which projects, but we're gonna talk about the usage and billing later, and some other stuff in this menu, different courses which Replit provides, and some documentation. When you start working on your project, you can encounter pretty customizable UI. You can drag and drop these windows, these tabs anywhere you want. You can adjust the scale of the spans. You can have it how many you want in your working environment, all the directories you see on the left, and some additional tools which Replit provides you can find in this menu as well. One frustrating thing, or at least I found it frustrating, or I couldn't find out how to improve it, but you cannot customize this UI and preserve it for each project you start. With every new project, it rolls back to the initial Replit setup. Now let's briefly talk about AI tools and jump straight to testing these particular tools. First of all is Agent. At its core, it's an AI system which interacts with your development environment. It can capture screenshots of your interface, handle package installations, monitor console output. The concept behind this agent is interesting. Replit is trying to build, as they call, ACI, AI-computer interaction, rather than just regular human-computer interaction. I have a prompt which I'd like to test first in Agent, then in Assistant, and then compare it with Cursor. First of all, we just drop the prompt in this Agent chat box, and the agent starts working. It takes some time to think, and usually it provides some feedback and some offers how to improve our project before it actually starts building it. Here we go. We can simply go with our initial prototype, or we can add some other interesting functionality which Replit considers valuable. But we're gonna just stay with our initial prototype. Then the work starts. Usually on the right side of your screen, you can find this progress tab. This is where all the updates happen. And to be honest, it looks like magic, especially when you see it for the first time. On the left side, as I've already mentioned, you can see all the directories which were built or in process of generating by agent. And the only thing we need to do now is just to wait for some initial results to come out and to test it. As you can notice, agent is installing all the dependencies. You do not touch console. You do not touch actually anything. It does all the work for you. At some point, it starts to ask you for some secret keys, let's say OpenAI API key. If you've already added it to your Replit, it simply asks you to approve that it's going to use this particular key. Or you can go to OpenAI platform and find another key and add it to this field. Right now, it's encountering some errors, so it sees that console gives some errors and we don't need to provide any feedback to it. And it starts to try to figure out how to fix it, and we simply keep watching how the work's done. When agent finished its work, it asks us to test the app, and usually you simply test it, just drop the link or just test the functionality you expected to get from this work. In our case, it's testing this functionality of trying to get the transcript, and we see an error, and thus we can tell the agent that something is not working. I'll try to debug this error with a simple comment that when we drop the link in our UI, it simply doesn't work. It's worth noting that agent uses some checkpoint or does some checkpoints, and you literally losing or paying money for each of these checkpoints. Here you can see how many checkpoints have already been done by the agent, and in our case it's 2 checkpoints. One checkpoint costs 25 cents, and here we can see that we've already spent $50. Let's try the last time and move on to other features. As you can see, it failed to process the video. I don't know what's the reason. We can try to look at the console, we can try to have a look at the code and debug it ourselves, or switch to an assistant, but for now we proved that agent is not capable of doing this particular task. Let's have a look at assistant. And to start working with assistant, to have more control over the code, over the chat, over the dependencies you install, this experience is more similar to one you've already probably experienced working with Cursor or Windsurf, or simply coding with ChatGPT in Chatbox. We open REPL's menu, we click create, I'll choose Python framework, and gonna just go with the name it offers me. Here in Assistant, we insert exactly the same prompt we tried to use working with agent. Talking about Assistant, you should know that it requires some money for each prompt as well, but it costs less, $0.05. Assistant works a bit different. It gives you more control over the code, as I've already said, but nevertheless, you don't need to go, let's say, to console and to prompt the console with some commands. You can simply click the buttons, let's say install all the dependencies it offers us to install, and then simply apply all the code it already generated, and let's add it to our directories, to our files, and have a look on the initial prototype. I think agent has overcomplicated the task and decided to use not the most suitable framework for this task. Here we use Python, create a Flask web app for processing YouTube transcripts, and we got the first error trying to process the YouTube URL. And it just says that we need to link our secret keys to REPL. I'm linking OpenAI secret key and trying to process the URL one more time. We have a problem with OpenAI SDK and chat completion functionality. Let's try to debug it with a few comments to our assistant. Definitely doesn't have all the knowledge, all the essential knowledge and all the actual data about various SDKs, so it's a good thing to provide the documentation you're gonna use in your project. Here we're just trying to have a look how it's gonna dwell with its own knowledge and see if it does it right now. And here we go, we managed to get the right result. I put the link on Brian Johnson video and got pretty detailed transcript. So the next step for us is just to define whether we need such a detailed transcript or we want to make it briefer, and simply go and adjust, let's say, our prompt in the code base. By the way, Assistant didn't use GPT-4o Mini as we asked it in the initial prompt. We can change it easily ourselves. Comparing with agent work, which hasn't been done, and we didn't get any result, and we spent almost $1, maybe $50. Here we spent simply 10 cents and managed to get something right, at least not the worst prototype, which we can elaborate on and create a nice app in the future. In Replit, we used Claude 3.5 Sonnet version 2. In Cursor, we have this same exact model, and I've already prompted it and asked not to use Docker, just to simplify the project and to test it easier and quicker. And now I'm gonna create all the files, put all the code in it, install all the dependencies, and return to you with my results. I've spent much more time trying to crack and understand how to build this in Cursor, and finally, at least I managed to do the front end, and it kinda works. But It does not, because it gives the error. In order to make everything work, I need to launch two terminals and two ports. The front end, which works, and the back end, which does not. This should be pretty easy to debug, but in terms of speed and quality of the result, I definitely vote for Replit. Few other things which I wanted to mention about Replit and Cursor and compare few of the features. First of all, pretty disappointing feature in Assistant in Replit that I simply cannot amend my prompt. And if I made a typo or a mistake or changed my mind, I cannot change the prompt. So I have to open a new chat, start a new chat, and start from the very beginning. While in Cursor, you can simply click this pencil and do whatever you want with your prompt and start a new branch of dialogue with the LLM. Assistant in Replit picks which files it wants to read itself. You don't need explicitly provide some code bases or files. It just decides on its own. While in Cursor, you usually use this add button and choose either folders or files or the whole code base, clicking Command Enter on Mac. I would say that if you are happy with installing all these dependencies and having more control over your project, and you're not afraid of all this infrastructure and everything about the code, not simply coding, I'd prefer Cursor in this case. In my opinion, the UI is better. It has some features which Replit has not, and you can run everything locally without any need to connect to Wi-Fi to run your project. From the other hand, in Replit, you have brilliant feature which makes your life easier. You simply click this deploy button, pick one of the options which Replit provide, and there is a pretty comprehensive documentation on deployment, or you can simply go with the recommendation of Replit itself. Just click set up your deployment. And here we go. Just in few seconds, our app is live and we can access it and give access to anyone would like to use it. While it's still compiling the app, I'm gonna show you a few things about the billing and the usage. If you have a paid account, you have a limit of $25 each month, and all your directions either with Assistant or Agent contribute to this limit. Here you can see the detailed analytics on what you've already spent, and thus adjust your usage of Replit. My overall opinion, Replit is definitely very nice and interesting cloud-based service which you can use to do your coding and to start your projects. Especially if you're a beginner, it's probably the best way or one of the best ways to start actually building and not suffer from lack of skills, talking about different dependencies, environment, and so on. From the other hand, when you start doing this, let's say in Cursor, you learn how to do this, and that's definitely valuable knowledge and set of skills. One good feature which I forgot to talk about in Replit, that you can ask Assistant to explain any code line simply with one button, not doing a lot of prompting, and get a pretty comprehensive and holistic amount of information on this particular code. Replit is good for beginners, but you have some limits you need to be aware of, which I've already talked about in this video. And finally, the deployment is ready, and you can send this particular link with this domain, or you can change this domain on your own if you have one, and send it to your friends or family, or just keep it first. Hope you enjoyed this review. I'm not affiliated with Replit anyhow. I just found these two promising for the beginners and decided to tell you more about it. To support my channel, click the subscribe and like buttons below, and see you in next videos. Peace.